The morning sun broke through the clouds as Darius checked his watch for the fifth time in 10 minutes. 6:30 a.m. His interview wasn't until 8, but after years of fighting for this moment, he wasn't taking any chances. He straightened his tie in the reflection of a store window, making sure every detail was perfect. The navy blue suit, bought specially for this day, fit him perfectly after 2 rounds of alterations he could barely afford. Darius took a deep breath, feeling the weight of opportunity on his shoulders. Growing up in a neighborhood where college seemed like a far-off dream, he had pushed against every expectation. 4 years of college while working nights at a warehouse, 2 more years earning his master's degree, countless applications, networking events, and preparation sessions had led to this moment, his final interview at Preston & Morgan, one of Wall Street's most prestigious investment firms. "You got this," he whispered to himself, adjusting his leather portfolio under his arm. Inside were copies of his resume, letters of recommendation, and the financial analysis project that had caught the attention of the hiring manager during his previous interview. The streets of Manhattan were beginning to fill with the usual morning crowd, people in business attire walking briskly, coffee cups in hand, faces buried in phones. Darius blended in perfectly now, though he couldn't help but remember his first time in the financial district 3 years ago, feeling like an outsider looking in. Today was different. Today he belonged. He decided to take the scenic route through Bowling Green Park, giving himself extra time to collect his thoughts before the interview. The morning was unusually warm for April, and he was grateful he'd decided to walk the last few blocks instead of staying underground in the subway. "Just be authentic," his mother had told him last night during their phone call. "They'd be lucky to have you." Her words echoed in his mind as he walked, giving him strength. She had raised him alone after his father passed when Darius was just 8, working 2 jobs to keep food on the table. This opportunity wasn't just for him, it was for her too. Darius checked his watch again. 7:15, still plenty of time to grab a quick coffee before heading to the building. The financial district loomed ahead, glass towers stretching toward the sky reflecting the morning light. From some angles, they seemed to touch the clouds, monuments to possibility and prosperity. As he walked along the edge of the park, Darius mentally rehearsed answers to potential interview questions. Why Preston & Morgan? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What unique perspective would you bring to our team? He had practiced these answers countless times, but still felt the flutter of nervousness in his stomach. His phone buzzed with a text from his roommate. "Knock 'em dead today." Darius smiled and was about to reply when a sound caught his attention, a soft crying coming from nearby. He looked around trying to locate the source, and spotted a small figure sitting alone on a bench, half hidden by a decorative bush. A little girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old, sat hunched over, shoulders shaking with quiet sobs. She wore a bright yellow school t-shirt and had colorful beaded braids in her hair. Something about her obvious distress made Darius pause. He glanced at his watch again. 7:20. He had time, probably just a child who'd fallen and scraped a knee while her parent was nearby. "Hey there," he said gently, approaching slowly so as not to frighten her. "Are you okay?" The girl looked up, her face streaked with tears, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and hope. She shook her head. "What's wrong? Where's your mom or dad?" Darius asked, keeping a respectful distance. "I don't know where anybody is," she said between hiccuping sobs. "We came on a yellow bus with my class and I saw a butterfly and I followed it and now everyone's gone." Darius's heart sank. A lost child was more serious than a minor injury. He scanned the area looking for anyone who might be a teacher or parent searching for a missing student. The park was filling with morning commuters, but no one seemed to be looking for a child. "What's your name?" he asked, kneeling down to eye level but still keeping enough distance not to seem threatening. "Zoe," she said, wiping her nose with her sleeve. "Nice to meet you, Zoe. I'm Darius. What school do you go to?" "Bright Horizons Elementary," she said, her voice steadying slightly now that someone was helping. "We were supposed to visit the big bull statue and then go to the museum." Darius nodded, knowing exactly where her class was headed. The famous charging bull sculpture was just a short walk away, and the Museum of American Finance was a popular field trip destination. "Okay, Zoe, don't worry. We'll find your class," he said reassuringly. "Do you remember your teacher's name?" "Ms. Wilson," Zoe said. "She has curly hair and glasses." Darius checked his watch again. 7:30. His stomach tightened. He still had time to help Zoe find her group and make it to his interview, but the margin for error was shrinking. "Do you have a phone number for your school or your parents?" he asked hopefully. Zoe shook her head. "Ms. Wilson said we don't need to remember phone numbers because they're in our phones, but kids don't get phones until we're older." Darius sighed. "Of course." He pulled out his own phone and did a quick search for Bright Horizons Elementary, but several schools with similar names popped up across the city. "Which part of the city is your school in, Zoe? Do you know the neighborhood?" She thought for a moment, her forehead wrinkling with concentration. "There's a big park near it, and a pizza place called Tony's on the corner." Not exactly narrowing it down in New York City, Darius weighed his options. He could take Zoe to the bull statue, hoping her class was still there. He could find a police officer to help. Or he could call the interview office, explain the situation, and ask if he could come in a bit later. 7:35. The right choice was clear, even as his heart raced at the implications. He couldn't leave a lost child alone in Manhattan no matter what was at stake. "All right, Zoe, first let's try to find your class. They're probably looking for you too. Let's head toward the bull statue, and if we don't find them, we'll find a police officer to help, okay?" Zoe nodded, looking relieved to have a plan. As she stood, Darius noticed she was limping slightly. "Did you hurt your leg?" he asked. "I fell when I was chasing the butterfly," she admitted. "It's not too bad. Want a piggyback ride? It'll be faster," Darius offered, thinking of his ticking clock. Zoe's face lit up with the first smile he'd seen from her. "Really? Really? But first..." He pulled out his phone and quickly dialed the reception number for Preston and Morgan that was listed on his interview confirmation email. A crisp, professional voice answered. "Preston and Morgan, how may I direct your call?" "Hello, my name is Darius Washington. I have an interview scheduled for 8 o'clock with Mr. Chen for the investment analyst position, but I've encountered an emergency." He explained the situation with Zoe as concisely as possible. "I understand, Mr. Washington," the receptionist said, her tone softening slightly. "I'll inform Mr. Chen. Do you have an estimate of when you might arrive?" "I'm hoping to resolve this quickly, but I can't be certain. The child's safety has to come first, of course. Please call us back when you have more information." "Thank you for understanding," Darius said, feeling both relief at their response and anxiety about what this meant for his chances. As he ended the call, he knelt down with his back to Zoe. "Hop on. Let's go find your class." She climbed onto his back, her small arms wrapping around his neck. Darius stood carefully, mindful of his suit but more concerned with getting Zoe safely back to her group. "Thank you for helping me," she said quietly as they started walking toward the charging bull. "My mom says not to talk to strangers, but you seem like a good person." "Your mom is right about being careful," Darius replied, navigating through the growing crowd. "But sometimes we need help, and that's okay too." As they approached the famous bronze bull statue, Darius scanned the area for a group of elementary school children or a worried-looking teacher with curly hair and glasses. The space around the bull was packed with tourists taking photos, but no school groups were visible. "Do you see your class anywhere, Zoe?" he asked, turning slowly so she could look in all directions. "No," she said, her voice trembling again. "Where did they go?" Darius checked the time. 7:45, 15 minutes until his interview was scheduled to begin. A weight settled in his chest as he realized he was probably going to miss this opportunity he had worked so hard for. But looking at the worried face of the child who trusted him for help, he knew he was making the right choice. Some things were more important than job interviews, even life-changing ones. "Don't worry," he told Zoe with a confidence he didn't entirely feel. "We'll find them. If they're not here, they might already be at the museum. Or we can find a police officer who can help us contact your school." As they continued their search, Darius thought about all the preparation that had gone into this interview. The late nights studying market trends, practicing responses, researching the company culture, all potentially wasted because of a split-second decision to help a lost child. And yet he couldn't regret it. What kind of person would he be if he had walked past Zoe, left her crying alone on that bench, all to secure his own future? His mother's voice seemed to whisper in his ear. "Character is what you do when no one is watching." Someone was W. Atching now, though, a scared little girl who was counting on him to help her find her way back to safety. And somehow that felt more important than any job on Wall Street. 8 o'clock came and went as Darius carried Zoe through the crowded financial district. His interview time had officially passed. With each step he felt a mix of emotions, disappointment about the missed opportunity, warring with the certainty that he was doing the right thing. The weight of the child on his back was real and immediate, while his dream job remained just that, a dream. Maybe we should try the museum, Zoe suggested, her voice steadier now that she had someone helping her. Ms. Wilson said we were going there after the bull. Good thinking, Darius agreed, adjusting her weight on his back. The Museum of American Finance isn't far from here. As they walked, Darius tried to keep Zoe's spirits up by pointing out interesting buildings and telling her facts about the financial district. His nervousness about the interview transformed into a determination to solve this problem, to reunite Zoe with her class and make sure she was safe. That tall building there? People from all over the world work there, he told her, pointing to a gleaming skyscraper. And see that old-looking building with columns? That's where they keep lots of gold underground. Real gold? Zoe asked, her eyes widening. Real gold, Darius confirmed. More than you could ever imagine. More than in treasure chests and pirate movies. Darius laughed. Way more. Enough to fill a swimming pool. Zoe seemed to consider this. I'd rather have a swimming pool filled with water. Gold would be too hard to swim in. Her practical observation made Darius smile despite the situation. You're absolutely right about that. They reached the Museum of American Finance on Wall Street, but a quick scan of the entrance revealed no sign of a school group. Darius approached the security guard at the front desk. Excuse me, has a school group from Bright Horizons Elementary checked in today? We're looking for a class that might have come here after visiting the charging bull. The guard checked a clipboard. No school groups have arrived yet this morning. First one isn't scheduled until 9:30. Darius's heart sank. He had been hoping for a quick resolution. Thank you, he said, then turned to Zoe. Let's head back outside and think about what to do next. Once outside, Darius helped Zoe down from his back and they sat on a bench. He pulled out his phone to call Preston and Morgan again. Preston and Morgan, how may I direct your call? This is Darius Washington again. I'm still helping the lost child find her group. I wanted to update Mr. Chen about my situation. There was a pause. One moment, please. After a brief wait, a different voice came on the line, deeper with a slight accent. Mr. Washington, this is Raymond Chen. Darius sat up straighter instinctively. Mr. Chen, I apologize for missing our interview. I found a lost little girl separated from her school group and I couldn't just leave her alone. I understand, Mr. Chen said, his tone neutral. Ms. Rivera explained the situation. Have you found her group yet? Not yet, sir. We've checked the obvious locations, but no luck so far. I'm thinking our next step is to find a police officer who can help us contact her school directly. That sounds sensible, Mr. Chen said. After a moment's pause, he added, I appreciate that you called to explain the situation. Many candidates would have simply not shown up or made an excuse afterward. I wouldn't do that, sir, Darius said firmly. This interview means a great deal to me, but the child's safety comes first, Mr. Chen finished for him. As it should. Would it be possible to reschedule? Darius asked, trying to keep the desperate hope out of his voice. I've been preparing for this opportunity for months. We'll discuss that later, Mr. Chen replied, not unkindly. For now, focus on helping the child. Call me directly when the situation is resolved and we'll talk then. He gave Darius his direct number. Thank you, sir. I will. As Darius ended the call, he felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. At least Mr. Chen had been understanding, but we'll discuss that later was far from a guarantee of a second chance. Was that your boss? Zoe asked, having listened to Darius's side of the conversation. Not yet, Darius said with a small smile, but I was hoping he would be. Is he mad at you because of me? Her lower lip trembled slightly. Darius shook his head quickly. No, not at all. He understands that helping you is important. Zoe seemed to accept this, though her expression remained worried. What do we do now? I think it's time to find a police officer, Darius decided. They can help us contact your school directly. They began walking again, looking for a police officer. After a few blocks, they spotted one directing traffic at a busy intersection. Excuse me, officer, Darius called, approaching with Zoe by his side. "We need some help. This little girl got separated from her school group during a field trip." The officer, a woman with kind eyes and graying hair at her temples, immediately gave them her full attention. "How long has she been separated?" "I found her about 45 minutes ago in Bowling Green Park," Darius explained. "She's from Bright Horizons Elementary. They were visiting the Charging Bull and then heading to the Museum of American Finance, but we checked both places and couldn't find them." The officer knelt down to Zoe's level. "Hi there. I'm Officer Rivera. What's your name?" "Zoe Taylor," she replied quietly. "And what's your teacher's name, Zoe?" "Ms. Wilson." "Do you know your school's phone number or your parents' phone number?" Zoe shook her head. Officer Rivera stood up. "No problem. We can look up the school's contact information." She spoke into her radio, requesting information for Bright Horizons Elementary. While they waited, Darius checked the time. 8:30 a.m. An hour had passed since his interview was supposed to start. He tried not to think about the opportunity slipping away, focusing instead on the fact that they were finally getting proper help for Zoe. "You've been very responsible," Officer Rivera told Darius. "Not everyone would take the time to help like this." Darius shrugged. "I couldn't just leave her alone." The radio crackled and a voice provided contact information for 3 different Bright Horizons schools in the area. Officer Rivera wrote them all down and began making calls. "This is Officer Rivera from the NYPD. I'm calling because we have a student named Zoe Taylor here who got separated from a field trip group." "Yes, that's right. She's safe. We're at the corner of Wall Street and Broadway." As Officer Rivera spoke, Darius noticed Zoe was looking increasingly anxious. He knelt beside her. "It's going to be okay," he assured her. "Officer Rivera is contacting your school now. Your teachers are probably really worried about you." "Am I in trouble?" Zoe whispered. "No, you're not in trouble," Darius said gently. "Everyone will just be happy that you're safe." Officer Rivera finished her call and turned to them with a smile. "Good news. That was the right school. They've been searching for you, Zoe. Your teacher and the rest of your class are at the police station about 6 blocks from here. They reported you missing as soon as they realized you weren't with the group." Zoe's face lit up with relief. "So they didn't forget about me?" "Not at all," Officer Rivera assured her. "They've been very worried. I'll take you both to the station in my patrol car." As they followed Officer Rivera to her vehicle, Darius felt his phone vibrate. He pulled it out to see a text from his roommate. "How'd the interview go?" Darius stared at the message, unsure how to respond. The interview hadn't happened. The job opportunity he'd been working toward for years had likely slipped through his fingers. Yet looking at Zoe walking beside him, chatting animatedly with Officer Rivera now that she knew she would soon be reunited with her class, he couldn't bring himself to regret his choice. Some things were more important than careers. Some moments defined character in ways that no job title ever could. He typed back, "Missed it. Found a lost kid who needed help. Long story. Tell you later." The response came quickly. "Whoa, you okay?" Darius thought about this. Was he okay? He had potentially sacrificed a life-changing career opportunity, but he had also followed his conscience and helped someone in need. "Yeah," he typed. "I think I am." They arrived at Officer Rivera's patrol car, and she helped Zoe into the back seat. As Darius was about to join her, Officer Rivera pulled him aside. "You know, we see a lot of people at their worst in this job," she said quietly. "It's nice to be reminded that there are still good people willing to put others first." Darius nodded, not trusting himself to speak. The officer's words hit him harder than he expected. During the short drive to the police station, Zoe seemed to have completely recovered from her ordeal. She bounced excitedly in her seat, pointing out things she saw through the window. "My mom's going to be so surprised when I tell her I rode in a real police car," she exclaimed. "And that I met a real-life hero." Darius raised an eyebrow. "A hero? Where?" "You, silly." Zoe giggled. "You're my hero. You helped me when I was scared and all alone." Her words struck Darius silent. He'd never thought of himself as anyone's hero before. He'd been focused on success, on proving himself in the competitive world of finance. But sitting in that patrol car, hearing the simple truth in a child's words, he felt something shift inside him, a new perspective taking root. They pulled up to the police station, where a frazzled-looking woman with curly hair and glasses, unmistakably Ms. Wilson, was pacing outside with a group of children and another adult, Ms. Wilson, Zoe shouted, already unbuckling her seatbelt. As soon as Officer Rivera stopped the car, Zoe burst out and ran toward her teacher, who rushed forward with open arms, dropping to her knees to embrace her. Darius stepped out more slowly, watching the reunion with a mixture of emotions. Relief that Zoe was safe, satisfaction at seeing the problem resolved, and yes, a bittersweet acknowledgement of what this morning had cost him personally. But as he watched Zoe animatedly telling her teacher about her adventure, pointing back at him as she spoke, he knew that some costs were worth paying. Some choices revealed who you truly were, and sometimes the most important interviews weren't the ones you prepared for. They were the unexpected moments that tested your character when no one was watching. The police station buzzed with activity as Darius stood, awkwardly near the entrance, watching Zoe reunite with her teacher and classmates. He felt out of place in his interview suit amid the uniformed officers and casual visitors. A part of him wondered if he should just slip away now that Zoe was safely back with her group. But something kept him rooted to the spot. Ms. Wilson was alternating between scolding Zoe gently for wandering off and hugging her with obvious relief. The other children clustered around, asking questions all at once while another adult, presumably another teacher or a parent volunteer, tried to maintain some semblance of order. Officer Rivera approached Darius. "You don't have to stay if you have somewhere to be," she said kindly. "We've got everything under control now." Darius nodded. "I should probably go. I missed an important job interview to help Zoe, and I need to see if there's any chance of salvaging the opportunity." As he turned to leave, he heard Zoe's voice call out, "Wait, don't go!" He looked back to see her breaking away from her group and running toward him. She stopped just in front of him, looking up with earnest eyes. "Thank you for helping me," she said. "I was really scared until you came." Darius knelt down to her level. "You're welcome, Zoe. I'm glad you're back with your class now." "Ms. Wilson wants to talk to you," Zoe said. Grabbing his hand and tugging him toward the group, Darius allowed himself to be led across the room, where Ms. Wilson stood watching them approach. Up close, he could see the stress lines around her eyes and the genuine relief in her expression. "You must be the Good Samaritan who found our wandering explorer," she said, extending her hand. "I can't thank you enough. I've been absolutely frantic." "Darius Washington," he introduced himself, shaking her hand. "I'm glad I could help." "Zoe tells me you missed an important interview to stay with her," Ms. Wilson said, concern creasing her brow. "I feel terrible about that." Darius shrugged, trying to appear more casual about it than he felt. "It was the right thing to do. I couldn't just leave her alone." "Still, not everyone would make that choice," Ms. Wilson insisted. "We need to fill out an incident report with the officer. Would you mind sticking around a bit longer? I'd like to make sure you get proper recognition for your help." Darius checked his watch. It was already past 9. What was a few more minutes at this point? "Sure, I can stay." Officer Rivera led them to a quiet corner of the station where they could fill out the necessary paperwork. As Ms. Wilson recounted the morning's events from her perspective, realizing Zoe was missing during the head count at the bull statue, the frantic search, the decision to report the missing child to the police, Darius found himself thinking about his own morning's journey. Had it really been just a few hours ago that he'd been confidently walking to his interview, his future seemingly laid out before him? Now everything felt uncertain. He absently adjusted his tie, which had come slightly loose during the morning's adventures. "We'll need to notify Zoe's parents," Officer Rivera was saying. "Which one of you has their contact information?" "I do," Ms. Wilson said, pulling out her phone. "Her mother is actually on her way here now. I called her as soon as we realized Zoe was missing." Darius straightened. "If you have everything under control, I should probably go. I need to call the company I was interviewing with and see if there's any possibility of rescheduling." Officer Rivera nodded. "We just need your contact information for our records, and then you're free to go." As Darius was providing his details, the station doors burst open and a woman rushed in. She was impeccably dressed in a tailored pantsuit, with natural hair styled in a sophisticated updo. Despite her obvious hurry, she carried herself with unmistakable poise and authority. "Mommy!" Zoe cried out, spotting her immediately. The woman's face transformed with relief as she knelt and opened her arms. Zoe ran into them and they embraced tightly. Darius couldn't help but smile at the reunion. even as a small pang of envy for their obvious bond tightened his chest. His own mother was hundreds of miles away, and he hadn't seen her in months. After a long moment, Zoe's mother stood, keeping her daughter's hand firmly in hers. She approached their small group with purpose. "Ms. Wilson, what happened?" she asked, her tone controlled but with an underlying current of tension. "How did my daughter get separated from the group?" Ms. Wilson launched into an explanation while Officer Rivera added details about the police response. Darius took this as his cue to leave and began to step away quietly. "And this young man," Ms. Wilson said, gesturing toward Darius, "is the one who found Zoe and stayed with her until we could locate her. He even missed a job interview to help her." Zoe's mother turned her full attention to Darius, studying him with piercing eyes. "You found my daughter?" Darius nodded, suddenly self-conscious under her scrutiny. "Yes, ma'am. She was alone in Bowling Green Park, upset. I couldn't just walk past. What's your name?" "Darius Washington." Something flickered in her expression, recognition perhaps. "Washington," she repeated. "And you said he missed a job interview?" This question was directed back to Ms. Wilson. "That's what he told us," Ms. Wilson confirmed. "At some financial firm, I believe." Zoe tugged at her mother's hand. "He was going to be a big-shot money person, Mom, but he helped me instead." "Did he now?" Her mother's expression softened slightly as she looked back at Darius. "Which firm?" "Preston and Morgan," Darius replied, surprised by the question. "I was interviewing for an investment analyst position." Her eyebrows rose slightly. "Preston and Morgan is a good firm. Competitive positions." The way she said it suggested familiarity with the financial world. Darius's curiosity was piqued. "Are you in finance as well?" A small smile touched her lips. "In a manner of speaking." "I'm Vanessa Taylor. I'm the CEO of Taylor Media Group." The name hit Darius like a physical force. Taylor Media Group was one of the largest digital media companies in the country, with investments across multiple platforms and industries. It was frequently featured in business journals and financial publications he'd studied religiously while preparing for his career. "It's an honor to meet you, Ms. Taylor," he said, hoping his shock wasn't too evident on his face. "Your company's expansion into international markets last year was brilliant." Something like approval flickered in her eyes. "You follow business news, I see." "I try to stay informed," Darius said modestly. "It's part of the job in finance, or it would have been." "Would have been?" she questioned. "You speak as if that opportunity is already lost." Darius hesitated. "I missed the interview. Given how competitive these positions are, I doubt they'll reschedule." Vanessa Taylor considered him for a moment. "Did you call to explain why you missed it?" "Yes, twice. I spoke with the interviewer directly the second time." "Good," she said with a nod. "That shows character." "And what did they say?" "That we'd discuss the possibility of rescheduling after I resolved the situation with Zoe," Darius replied, remembering Mr. Chen's non-committal response. Ms. Taylor handed her business card to Darius. It was elegant, minimalist, just her name, title, and contact information on heavy cream cardstock. "Call me tomorrow," she said. "I'd like to hear how things turn out with Preston and Morgan." Darius accepted the card, confused but polite. "Thank you, Ms. Taylor, that's very kind." "It's not kindness. Mr. Washington, it's interest." She looked down at her daughter, who was now leaning against her leg, tired from the morning's adventure. "You put my daughter's welfare above your own ambitions. That says something about who you are. In my experience, character is harder to find than talent." Before Darius could respond, Officer Rivera approached with final paperwork for Ms. Taylor to sign. Taking the opportunity, Darius said his goodbyes to Zoe, who gave him an impulsive hug around the waist. "Bye, Darius. Thank you for helping me," she said brightly. "You're welcome, Zoe. Stay with your group next time, okay?" he replied with a smile. As he headed for the door, Ms. Taylor called after him. "Mr. Washington?" He turned back. "I meant what I said. Call me tomorrow." Her tone made it clear this wasn't a casual suggestion. "I will," he promised, then stepped out into the late morning sunshine. Outside, Darius took a deep breath, trying to process everything that had just happened. He had missed his dream job interview, helped reunite a lost child with her class, and somehow ended up with the business card of one of the most powerful women in media. It was hardly how he had expected his day to unfold. He pulled out his phone and dialed Mr. Chen's direct number, hoping against hope that Preston and Morgan might still give him a chance. The call went to voicemail. "That it?" Ias left a message explaining that the situation had been resolved and that he was still very interested in the position if there was any possibility of rescheduling. After ending the call, he stared at Vanessa Taylor's business card again. What did she want to talk about tomorrow? Was she just being polite, or was there something more to her interest? His stomach growled, reminding him that in all the excitement he hadn't eaten anything since his nervous toast at 5:30 that morning. He spotted a small cafe across the street and headed toward it, loosening his tie as he walked. He needed food, coffee, and time to think. As he waited in line at the cafe, he sent a text to his roommate. "You won't believe the morning I've had. Kid found, job probably lost, but met the CEO of Taylor Media Group. Life is weird." The response came quickly. "What? Taylor Media Group? The Vanessa Taylor? Call me now!" Darius smiled tiredly. He'd call after he had some food in his system and had sorted through his own thoughts. Today had been a day of unexpected turns, and he had a feeling it wasn't over yet. As he ordered his coffee, he found himself wondering if he could go back to that moment in Bowling Green Park, knowing everything that would happen. Would he still stop to help Zoe? The answer came immediately, without hesitation. Yes. 1,000 times yes. The next morning, Darius woke up early out of habit, though he had nowhere to be. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling of his small Brooklyn apartment, replaying yesterday's events in his mind. After leaving the police station, he'd spent the day alternating between checking his phone for missed calls from Preston and Morgan and wondering what Vanessa Taylor wanted to discuss. His roommate, Andre, had bombarded him with questions when he got home, amazed that Darius had somehow managed to meet one of the most influential businesswomen in New York. "Do you realize who she is? Taylor Media Group is worth billions. They own half the streaming platforms people use." Darius did know. He'd spent hours researching Taylor Media Group after returning to his apartment, reading everything he could find about the company and its formidable CEO. Founded just 12 years ago, the company had grown exponentially under Vanessa Taylor's leadership, expanding from a small digital marketing firm into a multimedia empire, with interests in publishing, streaming services, and technology development. Rolling out of bed, Darius padded to the kitchen to make coffee. Andre was still asleep, his door firmly closed. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional car horn from the street below. While the coffee brewed, Darius checked his phone again. Still no response from Mr. Chen or Preston and Morgan. His heart sank a little further. He'd left 2 voicemails and sent a follow-up email. But the silence was becoming deafening. It seemed the opportunity had indeed slipped through his fingers. He poured his coffee and carried it to the small table by the window, where Vanessa Taylor's business card sat exactly where he'd left it the night before. He picked it up, running his thumb over the embossed lettering. "Call me tomorrow," she'd said. Today was tomorrow, but how early was too early to call? The last thing he wanted was to seem desperate or unprofessional. He decided to wait until at least 9 a.m., a reasonable business hour. To pass the time, he opened his laptop and worked on updating his resume. If Preston and Morgan was a lost cause, he needed to start applying for other positions. The job market was competitive, especially for someone like him who didn't have family connections or an Ivy League pedigree to open doors. At precisely 9 a.m., Darius picked up his phone and dialed the number on Vanessa Taylor's card. His heart pounded as he listened to it ring once, twice, 3 times. "Vanessa Taylor's office." A crisp, professional voice answered. "Good morning," Darius said, trying to keep his voice steady. "This is Darius Washington calling for Ms. Taylor. She asked me to call her today." "Regarding?" The assistant prompted. "I'm the person who helped her daughter yesterday," Darius explained, feeling slightly awkward, "when she was separated from her school group." "Ah, Mr. Washington, yes, Ms. Taylor is expecting your call. Please hold." The line went silent, and Darius waited, nervously tapping his fingers against the table. After what seemed like an eternity but was probably less than a minute, Vanessa Taylor's voice came through the speaker. "Mr. Washington, thank you for calling promptly." "Of course. Miss Taylor, thank you for taking my call. Have you heard from Preston and Morgan?" she asked without preamble. "No, ma'am. I've left messages but haven't received a response yet." There was a short pause. "I see, that's unfortunate but not surprising." "They're lost, potentially." Darius wasn't sure how to respond to that. I'm still hoping they might consider rescheduling, he said finally. Hope is admirable, Mr. Washington, but so is recognizing when it's time to pursue other opportunities, Vanessa said. Which brings me to the purpose of this call. Are you free for coffee this afternoon, say 2 p.m. at the Bluestone Cafe on West 52nd? Darius blinked in surprise. Yes, I'm available. Good, I'll see you then. Without further explanation, she ended the call. Darius stared at his phone, bewildered. What had just happened? Why would someone like Vanessa Taylor want to have coffee with him? Was this about Zoe? A thank you gesture, perhaps? The hours until the meeting crawled by. Darius spent them researching Taylor Media Group more thoroughly, reading recent business news about the company, and trying to anticipate what Vanessa Taylor might want to discuss. He showered and put on his interview suit again, the only truly professional outfit he owned, and headed out, early to make sure he wouldn't be late. The Bluestone Cafe turned out to be an upscale coffee shop in Midtown, the kind of place where business deals were discussed over artisanal beverages that cost more than Darius usually spent on dinner. He arrived 20 minutes early and chose a table near the back with a good view of the entrance. At exactly 2 p.m., Vanessa Taylor walked in. She moved with the same purposeful confidence he'd noticed yesterday, dressed in a deep blue suit that probably cost more than his rent. Heads turned as she crossed the cafe. Clearly others recognized her too. Darius stood as she approached his table. Ms. Taylor, thank you for suggesting we meet. Mr. Washington, she acknowledged with a nod, taking the seat across from him. I appreciate punctuality. A server appeared almost immediately. Vanessa ordered a black coffee and Darius requested the same, not wanting to seem frivolous by ordering something complicated. Zoe couldn't stop talking about you last night, Vanessa said once the server had left.
Her hero, she called you?
She's quite impressed. Darius smiled. She's a great kid. Smart too. She kept her head in a scary situation. Yes, she gets her level-headedness from me, though clearly not her sense of adventure, Vanessa said with a hint of a smile. That comes from her father. The server returned with their coffees, and Vanessa waited until he'd gone before continuing. I did some research on you. Mr. Washington. Darius raised his eyebrows, surprised but not entirely shocked. Someone in her position would have the resources to run a background check easily. Howard University, graduated with honors in finance, master's degree from Baruch College while working full-time, internship at Goldman Sachs during your undergraduate years. Impressive trajectory for someone who grew up in circumstances that might have limited others. Thank you, Darius said, unsure how else to respond to the fact that she knew details about his background. I also called Raymond Chen this morning, she continued. Taking a sip of her coffee, Darius nearly choked on his own drink. You know Mr. Chen? New York's financial world is smaller than it appears, Mr. Washington. Raymond and I have crossed paths many times over the years. He spoke highly of your previous interviews before yesterday's missed appointment. Hope flickered in Darius's chest. Did he mention whether they might reschedule? Vanessa set down her cup. They won't be rescheduling. The position has been filled. Raymond apologized for not calling you directly, but apparently the decision came down from higher up. They're restructuring the department and fast-tracked an internal candidate. The hope died as quickly as it had risen. Darius fought to keep his expression neutral, though the disappointment hit him like a physical blow. I see, he said quietly. Thank you for letting me know. Their short-sightedness brings me to why I wanted to meet with you, Vanessa continued, her gaze direct and assessing. Taylor Media Group is expanding our financial analysis division. We're looking for someone who understands both traditional finance and the unique challenges of the digital media landscape. Someone who can think on their feet and make sound judgments quickly. Darius listened, not quite believing where this conversation seemed to be heading. Someone who also demonstrates strong character and values, she added. The kind of person who would miss a life-changing interview to help a child in distress. Ms. Taylor, Darius began, are you offering me a job? I'm offering you an interview, she corrected. Today, right now. Consider this your first round. Darius straightened in his seat, mind racing to adjust to this unexpected turn. I appreciate the opportunity. I didn't expect this when I helped Zoe. Of course you didn't. That's precisely why we're having this conversation. Vanessa leaned forward slightly. Tell me, Mr. Washington, why finance? With your analytical skills and work ethic, you could have chosen many paths. Why this one? The question was familiar, he'd peer. prepared for it countless times for other interviews, but somehow sitting across from Vanessa Taylor, his practiced answers felt hollow. Instead, he decided to tell the truth. "My mother worked as a bank teller for 30 years, he said. "She raised me alone after my father died. I saw how hard she worked and how little control she had over her financial future. I saw how the system worked differently for different people." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "I wanted to understand that system from the inside, not just to succeed in it myself, but eventually to help change it, to make it work better for people like my mother." Vanessa studied him, her expression unreadable, noble aspirations. "The question is, can you deliver results while pursuing them?" "I believe I can," Darius said confidently. "My academic record and work experience demonstrate my ability to perform at a high level. But more importantly, I understand that real change comes from within systems, not from outside them. You have to earn a seat at the table before you can influence the menu." A small smile curved Vanessa's lips at his metaphor. "And what would you bring to my table, Mr. Washington?" "Fresh perspective, dedication, loyalty." Darius held her gaze. "And the same judgment and character you saw yesterday. I don't leave people behind, even when it costs me personally. I imagine that's a valuable quality in any organization." "Indeed it is," Vanessa agreed. She took another sip of her coffee, then set the cup down decisively. "The position I have in mind is Associate Financial Analyst in our Digital Acquisitions Department. The salary is 30% higher than what Preston and Morgan offered you." Darius couldn't hide his surprise. "How do you know what they offered?" "Raymond mentioned it. I believe in competitive compensation." She pulled a folder from her bag and slid it across the table. "These are the details of the position, including benefits and expectations. Take it home, review it, and let me know your decision by tomorrow morning." Darius accepted the folder, his mind whirling. This was happening so fast. "Thank you for this opportunity, Ms. Taylor. It's unexpected but very welcome." "Don't thank me yet," she replied. "The position is demanding and I have high expectations. I don't offer opportunities like this lightly, and I don't accept failure easily." "I understand," Darius said, meaning it. Success never came without pressure. Vanessa checked her watch. "I have another meeting to attend. Do you have any questions before I go?" Darius had dozens, but one rose above the others. "Why me? There must be hundreds of qualified candidates with more experience who would jump at this opportunity." Vanessa stood, gathering her bag. "Experience can be gained, Mr. Washington. Education can be acquired. But character, the kind that makes someone choose a stranger's well-being over their own advancement, that's much rarer and more valuable in my organization." She extended her hand. "I look forward to your answer." Darius rose and shook her hand, her grip firm and confident. "You'll have it by tomorrow morning." As Vanessa Taylor walked away, Darius sank back into his chair, staring at the folder in front of him. 24 hours ago, he'd been devastated by a missed opportunity. Now an even bigger one had fallen into his lap, all because he'd made a choice that had seemed like career suicide at the time. Sometimes, he reflected, the most important crossroads didn't announce themselves. They appeared as small decisions. Stopping to help when walking away would be easier. Choosing compassion when ambition urged otherwise. He opened the folder and began to read, a smile spreading across his face. 3 years later, Darius stood at the window of his office on the 32nd floor of the Taylor Media Tower, watching the morning sun glint off the buildings of Manhattan. His view now encompassed the same financial district where he'd once hoped to work, though from a different angle than he'd imagined. "Amazing how much can change in 3 years," he murmured to himself, adjusting the cuffs of his tailored suit, one of many in his closet now. A far cry from the single interview suit he'd once owned. His office door opened, and his assistant Luis entered with a tablet in hand. "Morning, Darius. You've got the quarterly review meeting at 10, lunch with the acquisition team at noon, and Ms. Taylor wants 15 minutes at 2 to discuss the Singapore expansion." "Thanks." "Luis, any word from the community center about tomorrow's workshop?" They confirmed. 20 high school students will be attending your financial literacy seminar. They're very excited that the financial director of Taylor Media Group is taking time to teach them. Darius smiled. "Make sure we have plenty of materials for them, and see if we can get some additional internship packets together. I met a few promising students at the last workshop." "Already done," Luis assured him. "Oh, and don't forget, Ice cream with Zoe at 4 today. As if I would forget that, Darius laughed. It's in my calendar in bold letters. After Luis left, Darius settled behind his desk reviewing the latest financial projections for the company's expansion into Southeast Asian markets. The numbers looked good, better than good actually. His strategy of targeting emerging digital economies with tailored content platforms was paying off handsomely. For Taylor Media Group. A notification popped up on his computer screen, a news alert. From the Wall Street Journal. He clicked it open, scanning the headline. Preston and Morgan announces layoffs amid restructuring. The article detailed how the investment firm was cutting 20% of its staff. Following a failed merger attempt, Darius leaned back in his chair, absorbing the news. That could have been him, laid off or stuck in a stagnating position. Instead, he was here leading a team of 30 financial analysts and directing investment strategy for one of the fastest-growing media companies in the world. All because he'd stopped to help a lost child. His phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. Saw the P&M news. Good reminder about roads not taken. See you at 2. Darius smiled. His boss had an uncanny ability to read his thoughts sometimes. In the 3 years since she'd hired him, their professional relationship had evolved into a genuine mentorship. Vanessa pushed him hard, expected excellence, and offered guidance that went beyond financial strategy into leadership and life wisdom. The morning passed in a blur of meetings and decisions. At the quarterly review, Darius presented his team's performance 15% above projections, to appreciative nods from the board members. The lunch with the acquisition team involved finalizing details for purchasing a promising streaming platform in Brazil, a deal Darius had championed for months. At 2 o'clock sharp, he entered Vanessa's corner office with its sweeping views of the city. She looked up from her computer, gesturing for him to take a seat. The Singapore numbers look solid, she said without preamble. Your team did good work there. Thank you. I think we're well positioned for the expansion. The local market research has been thorough. Vanessa nodded, then leaned back in her chair, studying him. 3 years ago today, you know. Darius raised an eyebrow. What was 3 years ago? The day you missed your interview at Preston and Morgan. The day you found Zoe in the park. Is it really? I knew it was sometime in April, but I didn't realize it was today specifically. I remember dates, Vanessa said with a small smile, especially significant ones. That day changed several lives, not least of which was yours. And yours? Darius asked, curious about her reflection. Indeed, finding a financial director with both analytical brilliance and genuine character is rare in this industry. Your impact on this company has been substantial. Coming from Vanessa, this was high praise. She wasn't one for empty compliments. I've been thinking, she continued, about our mentorship program for underserved youth. The financial literacy workshops you've been conducting have been successful, but I wonder if we could expand the initiative. I've been thinking the same thing, Darius admitted. There's huge demand. The waiting list for the workshops keeps growing. What would you need to scale it up? Not just in New York, but nationally? Darius blinked in surprise. Nationally? That would require significant resources, dedicated staff, a curriculum development team, partnerships with schools and community organizations across the country. Draft a proposal, Vanessa said. Include budget requirements, staffing needs, implementation timeline. If it makes sense, I'll take it to the board as part of our corporate social responsibility expansion. I'll have it on your desk by the end of next week, Darius promised, mind already racing with possibilities. Good. Vanessa glanced at her watch. Now don't you have an ice cream date to keep? Darius smiled. I do indeed. Give Zoe my love. Tell her I'll see her this weekend. 45 minutes later, Darius sat across from a now 10-year-old Zoe at their regular ice cream shop, a small family-owned place that made everything from scratch. Zoe was devouring a double scoop of chocolate chip cookie dough, while Darius nursed a cup of coffee ice cream. So then, Zoe was saying animatedly, I told Joshua that just because he's taller doesn't mean he gets to decide the rules of the game. And Ms. Patel said I was right and made him give the basketball back. Good for you, Darius said. Standing up for yourself is important. Mom says it's about establishing boundaries, Zoe said with the seriousness of a child repeating an adult phrase. She says I should never let anyone make me feel small. Your mom is a wise woman, Darius agreed. Speaking of whom she sends her love. Zoe nodded. Dad digging her spoon into her ice cream. Are you coming to dinner on Sunday? Mom's making her famous lasagna. I wouldn't miss it, Darius assured her. Sunday dinners with Vanessa and Zoe had become a regular part of his life over the past couple of years. What had started as occasional professional meetings with Vanessa had gradually evolved into friendship and eventually, something more. 6 months ago, they'd finally acknowledged the feelings that had been developing between them. Good, because I need help with my science project, and Mom is terrible at science. Darius laughed. Don't let her hear you say that. But yes, I'm happy to help with your science project. Zoe studied him for a moment, her expression suddenly serious. Can I ask you something, Darius? Of course, anything. Are you going to marry my mom someday? The question caught him completely off guard. What makes you ask that? Zoe shrugged. You look at her the way people look at each other in movies when they're in love. And she smiles more when you're around. And you're at our house all the time anyway. Out of the mouths of babes, Darius thought, amazed at her perceptiveness. Would it bother you if I did? He asked carefully. Zoe considered this, taking another bite of ice cream. No, she decided. I think it would be pretty cool, actually. You make her happy, and you help me with homework and stuff. Well, your mom and I are taking things one step at a time, Darius said diplomatically, but I care about her very much. And about you. I know, Zoe said confidently. Ever since you found me in the park. That's our origin story, like superheroes have. Darius smiled at her characterization. I guess it is. Mom says that day was fate, Zoe continued. She says some things are meant to happen even when they seem bad at first. Your mom might be right about that too, Darius admitted. He thought about the small velvet box hidden in his apartment, waiting for the right moment. He'd been planning to ask Vanessa an important question this weekend. During their planned trip to the Hamptons, after finishing their ice cream, Darius walked Zoe back to her school for her afternoon music lesson. As they approached the building, Zoe suddenly threw her arms around his waist in a tight hug. Thanks for the ice cream, she said, and for finding me that day. Anytime, kiddo, he replied, hugging her back. See you Sunday. As Zoe disappeared into the building, Darius checked his watch. He had time for a quick detour before heading back to the office. 20 minutes later, he stood in Bowling Green Park, at approximately the spot where he'd found Zoe 3 years ago. The park looked much the same. Benches filled with people enjoying the spring weather. Office workers on lunch breaks, tourists consulting maps. Did any of them realize how a single moment, a single decision in this very spot, could alter the entire course of a life? His phone buzzed with an email notification. The financial literacy program he'd started had just received a major grant from a national foundation. Another piece falling into place. Darius took a deep breath of the spring air, feeling a profound sense of gratitude. 3 years ago, he'd thought he was on a straight path to success with every step carefully planned. Missing that interview had seemed like disaster at the time. Instead, it had led him to a better job, a deeper purpose, and a family he hadn't known he was looking for. As he turned to leave the park, he noticed a young man in a suit, looking anxiously at his watch as he hurried along the path. Their eyes met briefly and Darius gave him an encouraging nod. Who knew what crossroads that young man might be approaching today? Walking back toward the Taylor Media Tower, Darius thought about the proposal Vanessa had requested, expanding the financial literacy program nationwide. It was an opportunity to create systemic change, to help young people like his younger self understand the financial world that would shape their futures. And on Sunday, if all went as planned, he would ask Vanessa a question that would shape their futures together. Life rarely followed the path you expected, Darius reflected. Sometimes the most important moments came disguised as obstacles. Sometimes missing your destination led you exactly where you needed to be. Sometimes the most valuable investments had nothing to do with money at all.